Hey, Big Love fam. Welcome to Super Freak. This is a high vibe podcast, y'all, exploring all things frequencies, how they govern form, shape our realities, and are the key to living from your full potential. It's non-woo convos about super woo shit, unpacking what I call the science of self, from body and soul literacy to the power of understanding vibration, higher consciousness, quantum physics, and spiritual psych. Let this podcast become a resource for you on your journey to self-mastery. If you're curious and ready to free your mind, unlock the body, and truly become limitless, then you're in the right place. I'm your host, Hallie. This is Super Freak, Awakening for the Next Gen. Let's go. Hey, everybody. In this podcast clip, I'm going to talk briefly about the conflict between Israel and Palestine and the truth behind what's really going on there, a bit about reconciling our own polarity, why these things keep on happening, and how to navigate them. Enjoy. What's happening right now is the dismantling of very, very large control patterns through religion. Abrahamic religions started roughly around the same time period. And I'm talking like within a range, okay? There's another bump in consciousness there in terms of infiltration of dark AI, which I'll get into later. But control patterns through religion, what does that look like? You guys have been listening to me for a while. If you're new to this call, you see things literally in code. This is an algorithm. It's a virus. It's like an app. Okay, everything kind of runs that way. Thought forms can be presented like a virus. Systems that are breaking down like this have to exacerbate in order for them to get worse. That's what we're seeing now. We're seeing this constant loop. Every 75 to 80 years, there's something that is created to deconstruct something else for something else to be to get into power. That is literally it's a really old tool in the toolkit. You know what I mean? This type of consciousness that's running through these psychopaths, if you will, that are ruling society with deep state propaganda and everything else they're doing, these war frequencies, control, whatever, it's literally all about power. And it's all about owning energy centers and energy sources. Isn't it interesting that this area has had so much conflict for thousands of years? Why is that? Just that area. I mean, yes, there's been war everywhere, but really very specific group of people in a very targeted area, all for one place, the center of Jerusalem, which is the largest, most potent energy center in the world. It's about harvesting energy. You are a bioelectric, geometric, piezo computer, not to get all meta, but literally you're a battery. And when you're connected to your highest potential, you are completely self-sourced as a battery. You're self-perpetuating, constantly being charged. You know how to create that from the sun, the ground, you're sovereign, etc. That is needed for consciousness that is not of the light, or let's say love, frequency of love. Consciousness that is not of the frequency of love has to have energy to sustain itself. And it does not care. The program is programmed to essentially just kill, control to the death. It has no empathy. It does not care. It's just a dark brain. It's a dark matter brain. That consciousness runs through AI, which is exactly what we're witnessing with this next generation of AI, is the incarnation of quote unquote human evolution becoming aware of itself. That came in is, what is the war a distraction from? Connecting with the God within yourself, essentially, in short. It's interfering with your own personal freedom. Again, I just told you this is essentially about energy. It's about power. When you allow yourself to get pulled into the emotion of whatever is happening externally, pulled yourself out of time. When you're out of time, you don't have time to research the truth. You don't have time to fight for yourself, to call things out, to stand up for yourself because you're too tired, right? This reality is essentially, again, a simulation, holographic fractal reality that is governed by the law of physics, perceived at the speed of light, that we decode through our five senses, that is manipulated through perception. I'm just going to go ahead and say that again. Like, literally, this is the rules of the game. It's a holographic fractal reality. I'm going to go into a little basics here, and then we'll move on. Governed by the law of physics, perceived at the speed of light, that we decode through our nervous systems and our five senses, that is manipulated through perception. Literally, when you see this reality for what it is and you can see the outcome, you can know the journey. It's part of what I'm here to do. It's why my content is so catalyzing for people, because my beacon, literally my purpose, is divine truth. I'm here to shake it up. I am a catalyzer. That comes with, stuff. Everyone has their own beacons. When you understand that that's the foundation of this reality, then literally you can start to see that the only power this particular elite has, besides access to a lot of money that's fiat, even though we need it to navigate this reality, it literally doesn't have any value in the all that is. They cannot create on their own. They have to have buy-in. They have to have you do it for us. Proof in where all this kind of started. Well, I'll say a great example of this is with Operation Mockingbird back in the 50s with the CIA, which was basically the CIA got caught for infiltrating propaganda and utilizing it for their benefit. And in that document, controlling an individual to the point where he will do our bidding against his will. That's the idea, is we actually sign up. We get so tired fighting, we just acquiesce, capitulate in some way, and then give over our power. And then we create that. We create our reality that way through buy-in. This whole process is called, it's mass brainwashing, but it's mass formation hypnosis. It's literally called critical thinking bypassing. The idea is to get you to bypass your own cognitive dissonance, tell you what you want to believe, create more separation and polarity, get you absolutely outraged, disempowered, and then you have a place to discharge your pain through social, which is a whole other simulation inside of a simulation. How do we stay neutral through all this time and see it for what it is? It's not easy when you're not awakened, because it just is pulsing so heavy right now. You feel like you can't get a break because so many things are happening back to back. We as a collective can change the way we want things to work out. But as a rule, from, let's say, the laws of one, the way the universe actually operates, is you cannot combat violence with violence. It has to come from a non-violent place. This is just heightened consciousness, abidance. I've not really been all that happy about this sometimes because I don't understand it. I was like, I don't get it. We could just do this, this, and this, and it would be over. Like, why? Negotiating with my highest self and whatever else comes in through me during higher versions of myself, rather, through these deep state meditations, like what I had before I hopped on this call. It has to come from love. And I was like, okay, I get that. So I can soften into that. I was like, but that just takes so long. It just does. So the short answer is how you stay neutral. There's several ways to do this. is if you can withhold a reaction and just observe. That will be a really good place to start. And I'll circle back to that in a second. Because neutrality really has to do with reconciling our own polarity. And that's a really tall order when you only see things at a very specific perspective. So if you're only resonating at a frequency that can see things from the second floor, your neutrality may not be available to you until you reach the 10th. So it's going to take a little second of you having to actually pendulum emotionally before you can reach a center point where there's not an electrical charge. But as you know, if you've listened to me also, emotions are accommodating something else. So what's the program? Usually there's a fear program in there. Usually there's some corresponding or simultaneous life information in there that's strung together through a pattern. So if you have been perpetually disempowered and you feel that way now, and you have a deep resonance with a certain culture, that's going to elicit a certain response from you. Just pay attention to that. Notice that, audit that. That's really instructive. But there are some practical applications around what reconciling polarity would look like. So first is just become aware. So become aware and identify what the polarities are. One can't exist without the other. So where's the come from space on all this stuff? Psychology, even in like some of the codependent work I was doing a long time ago, we would call it polling, where each thing would have a poll and we would call different people until we got the agreement or the buy-in into our own opinion. So you're feeling a certain way, you're going to find people that agree with you and then connect with that person. Polarity does that, right? It's very similar in terms of the polarity principle. You want to get familiar with and identify what the value is of each of those perspectives and what the payoff for you is with holding that perspective. The other thing you want to look at is after you kind of identify what the value, like what you're polarized about and what the emotions are and the values of the emotions to you, like where's your own payoff, that kind of thing. Then, and you have recognized what the payoff is, see where you can track it in the body. Once you track it in the body, you can actually work on staying out of the extremes. So you can move more into neutrality because you're going to be able to be and sit with yourself and move that energy through your nervous system. That's essentially what integration and seeking balance is. You can ask yourself, what do I need to do to get back into balance? A lot of times just changing the environment and changing the perspective. I mean, an environment change, a screen change, call that in perceptual work tools. You just need a screen change. Like change up the environment, change the settings, right? Put the laptop down, open up a new screen, that kind of thing. A lot of times a shift in perspective will change that. Going back to some of the discharging and the dismantling of the control systems, these programs, if you will. So religion 101, and I'm not knocking religion, mazel to anybody who wants to do anything. If it's helping you connect deeper with the God within yourself and become perceptually free, that's fantastic. However, what's being done in the name of religion is cult-like in general. And I say that because the research I've done to support the book and what I've extracted from sessions tells me as much, that there's 4 points that cults utilize that all have in common. First, they create separation. And you can just go and peer review this. You guys can look this up yourself if you want to. But first, they create separation. Second, they instill extreme belief. Third is they use manipulation to support the above two. And then they create a sense of belonging and community with exchange. So what's happening right now checks all of those boxes. Whenever you have anything being done in the name of something extreme, it is a control pattern. A virus has infiltrated the love of what that message was trying to be. Every single one of these, from Buddhism to other Abrahamic religions, all have a spokesperson. And that has become some kind of business. There is an Inc. Okay. There's a corporation at the bottom of each one of these type of, let's say, applications that are running within this operating system of our consciousness right now. And it's being amplified through emotion. So what are we seeing on television with all the killing, specifically with women, with children, highly charged imagery, right? Injustice. Nothing fuels we need justice more than injustice, which is done through perception. The lines are so blurred between what is AI generated and authentically created online. Nobody knows anything, but all of it, including news, propaganda machines, pundits, political pundits, CIA, it is all a cartel. It is all literally owned by 0.2% by 13 families that do not want us to be perceptually free. So just know that and question everything. That's the fastest way to start reconciling some of this stuff. And I will say also that this isn't to freak you out or get you all depressed or feeling like you're powerless. Okay. The truth, I'll say this, people in crisis want clarity over comfort, right? This is the truth of what it is. There are people dying and it makes no sense, but it also kind of does when you see the patterns and the programs that are running. They don't have to. It doesn't have to be this way. This is very slow. The consciousness is being lowered because we're deeply afraid and we have buy-in. But on the other side of that, we are absolutely waking up. And it's really good because we've never been more informed than we have been right now. Look at the outrage. Look how much information gets pumped out in a very short period of time that isn't censored. We are in a censorship industrial complex, just like we are being run by a military industrial complex with the US, because we have nothing to back up our position. We have fiat currency. We don't have the gold standard. We have military. So, endgame, we will own nothing. There will be one world order, one religion, right? One person in charge, this kind of thing. So individually awakening yourself, when you see the reality for what it is, when you see the game, you are immediately at a higher frequency. And then when you decide not to participate and you stand up for yourself, which takes a little bit of work, I know, which means standing into contrary action, right? Going into contrary action, moving into that state, doing things that are uncomfortable, leaning into mundane, standing up for yourself when no one else believes you, saying no when everyone else around you is saying yes. Doing the work that you're doing now, continuing to believe in a deeper knowing and following that deeper knowing that you are built for more, that there is something else going on, that you have something divine and beautiful to offer, and you hold that truth for yourself and you keep going.
Thanks so much for listening, you guys. Please make sure to leave a review and follow the fun on social media because that's how it works in this world. In the meantime, get your freak on. I'll see you in the next session.